Hello, my name is Kristen, and I'm the Edmonds College Foundation Scholarship Lead. For those of you who are returning scholarship reviewers, welcome back. For those who are new, welcome. Thanks so much for taking the time to be a scholarship reviewer this year. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the scholarship review process and go over the rubrics. If you have any questions, email me at kristen.jowie@edmonds.edu and we'll set up some time to chat. Let's go ahead and get started. Our scholarship application and review process runs through AwardSpring. If you already set up an account last year, you can click Forgot Password and it'll ask you to enter the email you used so that you can reset your password. You can find the Forgot Password link right here. If you know you have an account, but you're not sure what email you used, let me know and we can figure it out. If this is your first time reviewing, click Register. It asks you for email, first name, last name, and password. The system that this information is stored in is only accessible by me, so don't worry about other schools asking you to review or someone else having access to your information. Once you're in the system, you'll see a dashboard. If you go in before I've assigned you applications, instead of seeing the review groups with the application number, it'll say you don't have any applications to score. I'll finish assigning reviewers what applications they will have to score by April 7th, so check back then. So on this dashboard, you can see there's one review group, and it's called Review Group Sample, and that there's 0% complete, and the applications remaining are 1. So to get into your review group, you'll click on the name. In this case, it says Review Group Sample, but if you're reviewing an application, it'll probably say something like 2021-2022 scholarship applications. So now that I'm into the review group, you'll see there's one application in here. In normal circumstances, there will definitely be more than one application. You can see the score, which is blank right now because we haven't started. The applicant name, or in this case, it's a number because I've hidden all of the application names. And then the status. Right now it says not started, but once you get started, it'll say in progress. And then once you complete it, it'll say complete. So let's click on the application name. Now we're on the application. You'll see in the lower right corner that there's a scorecard that's popped up. We'll talk a little bit more about this when I get to the rubrics. In the middle, you can see the whole application. There's 5 spots you'll need to take into consideration while you're filling out your scorecard. GPA, estimated educational costs, how are you paying for your education, a short answer where the student describes their financial situation, and the personal statement. So let's look at these one by one. Scrolling down a little bit, you'll find GPA under the academic information section. At the bottom of this section, you'll see where students have self-reported their GPA and then uploaded a copy of their transcripts. In most cases, you can see the cumulative GPA in the lower right-hand corner of the transcript. So if we click on the transcript example, on this transcript, you can see where I've highlighted in green the GPA. If you have any trouble finding the GPA, let me know and we can figure it out. The next section is financial information, and this has the information you'll need to determine financial need. There are 2 areas you should look at. The first is the question, what are your estimated educational costs per academic year? The second section is down here, and it's about how are you paying for your college education and how much do you have available from each of your sources of funding for this term? Also, the question, what is your available funding from self-supported? Each application will have a different amount of funding sources and related dollar amount depending on what each student selects. I'll get into that in more detail in just a little bit. If you scroll down towards the end of the application, you'll find the personal statement section. Since this is an open-ended question, each student's response will be different and vary in size and detail. Before we jump in how to score, now is a good time to look at the rubric. If you scored last year, you'll notice that these rubrics look a lot different. The program committee has really tried to simplify the rubrics to make it easy for reviewers. Students have had access to these rubrics via our scholarship website, and we've encouraged them to follow the rubrics as they've written their applications. Our scholarships are first financial need based, and then second GPA and personal merit. You'll see that reflected in our rubrics, as financial need is 40 points, GPA is 30 points, and the personal statement is worth 30 points. The GPA rubric is on the first page. For the GPA rubric, there are 4-point levels. Everything below a 2.5 is set to be 0 points, as all of our scholarships but one have a minimum of 2.5 GPA. So let's go back to look at the student application. In this question, what is your cumulative GPA? The student indicated their GPA is a 3.3, and I verified that by looking at their transcript. So if the student's GPA is a 3.83, it falls under the category of 3.5 to 4.0 cumulative GPA and earns them 30 points. So looking at the scorecard, there's a couple boxes here as well as the add notes. In the GPA section, I'm going to go ahead and type 30 points. You'll notice that this has automatically updated the scorecard to 30 out of 100. In the financial information section, you'll want to look at a few areas in order to determine what a student's ability to pay for their education is. First, you want to look at the question, what are your estimated educational costs per academic year? This student has indicated $10,000. The second question is, how are you paying for your college education and how much do you have available from each of your funding sources? Students have the ability to select self-supported, family contribution, community support, grants, school loans, scholarships, and I don't yet have my financial aid package. The I don't yet have my financial aid package is an option for students who haven't yet submitted their FAFSA or are waiting to learn about their award package. What this means for you as a reviewer is that you'll know that these numbers are more of a guesstimate than someone who already has their financial aid package, because the student who already has their financial aid package will know how many grants or other types of aid they'll be getting for 21-22 versus a student who doesn't yet have their financial aid package. As the administrator, I'll use this as a means to know if I need to check in with students before I make an award so that we're making sure we're getting funds to those who need it most. Because students can select all that apply, the answers in this section might be different per student. In this case, my test student has selected self-supported and school loans. Because they selected those two options, 2 more questions appeared on their application. What is your available funding from self-supported? And what is your available funding from school loans? My student indicated that they'll be able to fund $2,000 from self-supported and expect to take out $8,000 in school loans. So let's go ahead and look at our rubric again. This student falls into the category of potential ability to pay 0 to 25% of students' educational expenses. This gets them 20 points in the potential ability to pay section. Next, we're going to look at the financial need and responsibilities essay question rubric. As you can see, there's 3 different levels to the financial need and responsibilities rubric. So let's go back to our student application. The essay component is towards the bottom of the financial information section. We ask students to describe any circumstances or expenses that affect your ability to fund your college expenses. Because this is an essay question, each student's answer will be different. If we look at our test student, they said that they're a single mom with a mortgage and are currently unemployed. They mentioned that their former job is only allowed at 25% capacity, so they haven't been able to return to work. It sounds to me like this student is a single parent who was working full-time, but because of the pandemic was laid off and hasn't been able to go back to work yet, because their place of work is operating at 25% capacity. They mentioned a mortgage, so I know that they have financial responsibilities, and being a parent, they have children they need to support. And looking at the rubric, I'd say that this person has significant financial need, particularly if I compare them to a student who lives at home, doesn't work, and whose parents cover their living and educational expenses. So I'd say that our student gets 20 points for their essay. On the scorecard, because I gave the student 20 points for their potential ability to pay and 20 points for their essay, They've earned 40 points for financial need.
Determined the GPA and the financial need score. The last score we need to determine is the personal statement score. You can find the personal statement section towards the end of the application. Keep in mind that the personal statement is an open-ended question, so the length of each student's personal statement will be different. Let's take a quick look at the rubric. So the personal statement rubric is on page 3 of the rubric scoring guide. For the personal statement, there are 3 levels of points available: 0, 15, and 30. The 3 questions we ask the students to address in their personal statement are: what unique opportunities or challenges have you experienced throughout your life that have helped shape who you are today? What are your academic and career goals, and what drives you to pursue these goals? And do you have any personal goals or ways you care for your community? Community can be defined as your family, volunteer roles, religious organization roles, etc., that you'd like to share.
We've asked these questions because we think it will help the reviewer understand the student's character, strengths, challenges, and educational goals. So essentially, by reading a student's personal statement, you should have a pretty good idea of who that person is and what their goals are. Keep in mind, not every personal statement is going to be heart-tugging, and we're not asking you to rate on if a student has a heartbreaking story, but rather that they've demonstrated their character and educational goals. Looking at our test student application, this student mentions that they have an interest in law, that their education had to take a back seat because of raising a child, and that they enjoy being a restaurant worker, but know that they want to do more for a career, and that they are pursuing their degree to have a better life for themselves and their daughter. I get the sense that this person is a hard worker because they've worked and raised their child when all their friends were out partying, that they are passionate about their field of study, and that they are committed to seeing their dreams come true, not only for themselves, but their child. I feel like they answered enough of the prompt that I have a good idea of what kind of person this student is. So I'm going to give them 30 points for their personal statement. To give some more examples, sometimes the student will talk a lot about their life, but not much, if at all, about their goals. And so I'm left feeling, I wonder what the educational goals of this person are, or why they're going to explore getting a career in a certain field. So I might give that person a 15 because I don't feel like I have the complete picture. Or maybe a student even puts a 1-sentence answer about how they want to be a paralegal. In that case, I'd give that person a 0 because I don't feel like any real thought was put into their personal statement, and I don't have a sense of their character. For personal statements where the grammar or sentence structure is off, try not to get hung up on those. I know it's hard. As reviewers, we aren't scoring applications based on grammar errors. If an application is full of grammar and spelling errors, but you can still read their story and make a determination on the score, then look past the grammar and spelling errors. But if a student's personal statement is so poorly written that you can't determine what they were trying to get across, then that'll probably affect your score because you won't be able to get a full picture of the student. Lastly, in this notes section, I find using the notes section is helpful for me to keep track of the student's application while I go through it. I also use it if I see any red flags in the application because the administrator, in this case me, can see them. I found that the notes section was particularly useful for myself because I would go through and start reading applications and maybe stop and do something else and come back. So having the notes there was great to reintroduce myself to what I was thinking about. So I'm just letting you know that if you want to score, sleep on it, revisit, you can totally do that. You have until April 30th to finish, so you can go back at any time until then and revise your scores. Like I said, you also don't need to score all in one sitting. If you find doing a few applications, then switching to something else and coming back later works better for you, do that. You'll be able to tell which application you've scored because it will stay completed by it. So let's go ahead and save our application and then scroll up to the top. And we'll go ahead and click groups. Now you'll see that I have 100% complete and that I have 0 applications remaining. But let's say I read through all my applications and want to give it a final look through before I call it done. If I click back into my application, you'll also see that it says 100% score here. If I click back into the application, you'll notice that all of my scores are still here. But let's say that I thought more about the financial needs section and I was just like, I don't know. I don't think that that person really needed 40 points. And I decided that I wanted to change it to 30. And click save, and then we'll go back to those groups. Click into the review groups, and now it shows 90%. So I'm just showing you that in case you're like me and you want to go back and review them one more time. So going back to the review process, I want to let you know that each application is scored by 3 reviewers, and then we take the average of those scores, and that's the final score for the student. And letting you know that so that you don't stress too much about if your score is going to make or break a student's application. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We can set up a Zoom where you can share your screen and show me which section you're stuck on, or we can set up a phone call where we can talk through something, or we can exchange emails too. Whatever your preferred form of communication is works for me. That's all I have for you today. On behalf of the Edmonds College Foundation, thank you so much for committing your most valuable resource, your time, to help ensure that Edmonds College students are getting the scholarships they need to succeed. Take care.